I remember the exact day that I decided to end my engagement and my relationship with my daughter's dad. It was a long time coming, and it was one of the hardest decisions that I've ever made in my entire life. But for the sake of my sanity and my daughter's well-being, it was absolutely necessary, and it was the best thing that I could have done. So we're gonna talk about it. The good, the bad, and why I ultimately decided to end my engagement. I've been wanting to talk about this for a long time now, because I know that the things I've learned from this situation can be helpful to those of you who can relate. But I feel the need to be very mindful of the things I say and how I say it when discussing all of this, because it's incredibly important to me to be able to continue successfully co-parenting with my ex, even though he may not come across in the best light in this video. I know that a lot of people expect things to be very petty and contentious between exes, and that single moms get a bad rap just for even existing. So I definitely don't want my words or my intentions to be misconstrued in any way, or to come across as some angry or bitter baby mama. My intention here is not to bash my ex or throw him under the bus or make him out to be the bad guy in all of this. I'm no longer hurt, I'm not angry, I've done my healing, and I've taken time to sort it all out. So there's really nothing left to feel bitter about. I also don't think that my ex is a terrible person. I loved him then, and I still have love in my heart for him now. And I ultimately want him to win in life, even though we're no longer together. But although it's not my intention to be malicious or hurtful by sharing all of this, I do know that the truth may still hurt, because our situation wasn't all rainbows and sunshine and romantic proposals. So I'm just gonna talk the truth so that others can gain something positive from my experience, and let that be that. So let's get into it. When I first met my ex, I thought that he was a great guy. He's smart, he's determined, he's funny. We were able to make each other laugh, and we connected in a lot of authentic and genuine ways. Or so I thought. No, let me stop. He's also good looking, he's very handsome, and he has these broad, wide shoulders that you can get lost in for days. He was also faithful as far as I'm aware. He held up his part of the deal financially and was a decent provider for our family. He's a survivor, and he's made it through a lot of heartache and trauma in his past to make it to where he is today. And he's accomplished a lot and has a lot to be proud of himself for. He taught me a lot about life and about myself that I'll forever be grateful for. We were able to share our lives with each other, and in a lot of ways, he became like my best friend. He's also a really good dad to our daughter, definitely a much better example of a father than he's ever had for himself growing up. He was a generous gift giver and definitely knew how to turn on the romance with unexpected roses and jewelry and other gestures like that. And honestly, when things were good between us, they were really good. And there were so many great experiences and positive qualities that I saw in him in the beginning that I really thought he was a great catch, which is how we ended up being together for so many years and engaged to be married. And I know that a lot of us have been raised to believe that finding a man who is a good provider and who's faithful and who doesn't beat you and stuff like that automatically makes them a good potential partner, and that all of those things seamlessly translate into them being relationship material and someone you should hold on to for as long as you can. Just like how women are taught about the importance of being able to cook and clean and cater to our man. But it really takes so much more than any of that to actually make a relationship work with someone, especially for the long term. So while the promise of loyalty and stability and faithfulness are all great things to look for, especially if you're looking for a monogamous relationship, all of that's just the tip of the iceberg. Those things are not enough to develop a happy, functional, fulfilling relationship, especially if you're dealing with some of the issues that were going on behind the scenes in our relationship. So, not to air out all of our dirty laundry, but some of the things that came to light after a while of us being together was that his level of effort did not match mine. My ex had a habit of half-assing things and doing what felt to me like the bare minimum rather than really trying hard and giving it his all. And it got to a point where I could no longer deny how unbalanced and unfair our relationship was in that way, because it often felt like I was trying so hard and constantly trying to do my best and put my best foot forward, putting in the work to make it work. Okay. While it felt like he was barely trying. He also really struggled to take negative feedback without feeling like he was being attacked by someone. So if you had good things to say or you were singing his praises, he's like, come on, give me some more. I love this song, turn this up, this is great. But the second that you had something negative to say, or you pointed out something about himself that he did not want to hear, that's when he would completely shut down and not want to hear what you have to say. I also noticed that he lacked any real sense of accountability, and he seemed to master the skills and the audacity of apologizing profusely while also maintaining that he had done nothing wrong. So no matter the level of wrongdoing or the part that he played in things, somehow things were never his fault, and he often viewed himself as being victimized somehow, and coming up with any version of reality that he could to excuse his behavior and avoid having to take accountability for the things that he had done. It took me a long time to realize how manipulative that was and how much of a toll that had taken on me. And it was always hard to know whether or not he was doing it intentionally, like intentionally trying to manipulate me, or if that's just the way he was wired. But either way, it ended up with me being manipulated, so it really didn't matter, you know? All right, bear with me as the lighting and everything changes. The sun decided to set midway through our talk, so changing things up so that hopefully you can see me okay. Where was I? Right, so as bad as it may sound, I often felt like there were parts of him that were broken due to a lot of the traumatic experiences that he dealt with in his childhood and throughout much of his life, really. And I don't say that to be insulting, because I feel like there are things that each of us go through that have the potential to break us, especially if it's as heavy as some of the things that he dealt with. So I tried not to ever hold that against him. My main issue was that he seemed to refuse to put in the work in order to heal from those things and in order to get better and improve his mindset and his potential for the future. And of course, you can't force someone to heal before they're ready. Healing is such a personal journey that everyone kind of has to take on their own time, or in their own time. But my ex was definitely the misery loves company type. So what would happen is that he would end up unleashing a lot of his inner frustration and anger and pain and turmoil on the people that were around him. If he was having a bad day or struggling mentally or going through something, he would pick these petty little stupid insignificant fights as a way of bringing other people down to his level of misery, so that he wouldn't have to suffer with that alone, or be the only one that was hurting or stressed out or suffering on the inside. He also had a lot of selfish tendencies, and in many cases it led me to question whether or not he had the same sense of empathy and compassion and sense of common courtesy that I have, and that tend to be some of my strongest qualities. So that was a big struggle for us as well, or for me at least, because he expected me to be loving and kind and patient and understanding and compassionate, all of which are things that I think I'm naturally good at and that I'm more than happy to give to anyone. But when I'd expect the same things from him in return, he would just tell me that he was raised by wolves, as if that was justification for him not even trying. So essentially, I was getting negativity and cynicism and bullshit from him in a lot of cases. Meanwhile, he was getting positivity and support and tenderness from me. And I'm definitely far from perfect, so it may not have always been that way, but those seem to be our default, and we were definitely opposites in those ways. One of the fights that we seem to have over and over and over, and God alone knows why I subjected myself to this for as long as I did, but we basically worked on opposite schedules. So he would work overnight and come home in the morning, and when he got home, I'd get up and get ready to go to work, and we'd rinse and repeat. And on too damn many occasions, this man would come home from work in the wee hours of the morning and burst into our bedroom like a tornado. The door would slam open, he'd flip on all the lights, he'd start looking for something or rummaging through drawers or doing whatever he could to seemingly make as much noise as possible while I was asleep in bed with our baby girl, trying to get in my last couple hours of sleep before having to get up for work. And it always felt so bizarre to me to have to explain to him why I would expect him to have some sense of courtesy when doing all of this, and how I wouldn't expect my future husband to willfully disrupt my sleep when he knew that I was already not getting enough to begin with. Because if I, for example, walked into a room where someone was sleeping, whether there's someone I know or not, whether there's someone I like or not, or someone I care about or not, if I walk into a room and someone's sleeping, I'm gonna tiptoe into the room as quietly as I can, avoid turning on the lights as much as possible. I'd take out the little flashlight on my phone if I have to look for something in the dark, and I would try my damnedest not to disturb them. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm the weird, crazy person here, but that's the way that I would do things, because in my mind, it's common courtesy to not unnecessarily wake someone for no reason. Perhaps it's just in my mind, but it's not that hard to regard someone else's feelings and to give a damn and to try just a little bit harder and to put in the tiniest bit of effort to be a decent person, if it means not inconveniencing them or not waking a sleeping person who's already sleep deprived. To me, it's simple. It makes sense. It's not that hard. But to him, it was like a foreign concept. And like I said, this is a fight that we had to have on numerous occasions. You would think that someone who cared about you, who likes you, who says they love you, who wants to spend their future with you, wouldn't need to be told this more than once. Wouldn't need to be explained this in the first place. But I damn sure didn't expect to have to go over this over and over and over again. And the more that I had to explain something that felt like such a simple concept, the more that I realized, like, wow, if I have to even say this and explain it to him, maybe he's not the one. If we have to go through this over and over and over, and if he's not even willing to make an effort to do better, then he's probably not the one. And I had similar thoughts when we would fight about the cleanliness of our house. We were living together and we had very different standards for our level of cleanliness and organization in the house. And somehow it seemed like the mess bothered me in a way that it just never bothered him. And I'm far from a neat freak. I don't need everything to be spotless all the time. However, things would get out of control and out of hand very regularly. And it seemed that in his mind, if I was the person who had a problem with the mess, then I should be the one to clean it up, even though most of it was created by him and his habits. And so not only was I working full time and taking care of our daughter in almost every spare minute that I had, I was also the sole one responsible for cleaning and organizing and making sure our house didn't descend into chaos, because he seemed to be perfectly fine with sitting back and letting it get worse and worse and worse until we either fought about it or I would just bite the bullet and do it for the sake of trying to keep the peace between us. So all that to say that although I loved him, and I have love in my heart for him still, and he has a lot of great qualities and characteristics that I felt lucky to find in a man at some point, things just got to a point where I could not envision us remaining together in that relationship the way that it was, and me having any level of happiness close to what I want for myself and for my life and for my future. Looking into the future 5 or 10 or 15 years or even longer than that, since marriage is supposed to be till death do you part or what have you, I just could not bear the thought of us still being together in the same relationship and still fighting over petty, insignificant bullshit simply because he was having a bad day and he still refused to heal from the things that were causing him to inflict misery on the rest of us. And if he wasn't able or willing to improve himself or make certain changes in the time that we had already been together, I just could not delude myself into thinking that,
oh, he'll change if he loves me. He just needs more time. Things are gonna get better. We just have to work through them and fight through them and etc. and etc. etc.
Because although I imagine that there are certain situations where those things might be true, I could also very much see us still together 5 years, 10 years, 15 years from now, still seeming to be happy on the outside, only now married and further committed to each other while still having a bunch of issues and nonsense going on behind the scenes. It looks dark. What is happening? I should have done this before. This looks a lot better actually. I did a lot of growing and learning and evolving in the time that we were together. And I managed to completely transform my life. And while I don't expect to hold him to the same standard, I would have happily worked with him to fix the parts of himself that might have been broken and to work on our relationship to make it better and stronger, if I had any sense or any reason to believe that he was truly willing to do the same, to heal from his past hurts, to develop a deeper sense of empathy and compassion for other people, to look past himself and stop being so self-centered and selfish, to take accountability for his actions and learn to do better for his sake, for his daughter's sake, and for everyone else that's in his life. But he seemed to be intent on remaining exactly the same, because in his mind, or in his words at least, he did nothing wrong. It's not his fault. He didn't do anything. There was nothing to fix or nothing to change or nothing to improve, because apparently I was with Mr. Perfect. And so as I changed and our lives changed, he seemed to expect to be able to continue treating new Nika the way that he'd become accustomed to treating old Nika. And I accept responsibility for part of that, because I'm not the same person that he was when we met. And I'm sure he didn't expect me to change this much. But every single one of the changes that I've made have been for the better, at least in my opinion, which to me is the only one that really matters. But every single one of the changes that I've made in my life have been for the better and have only led me to bigger and better things, and to developing better standards and better boundaries for myself and for my life, until it got to the point that the way things were just couldn't possibly work for me anymore. What he was offering and providing, although it was great at first, it just wasn't working anymore. It wasn't enough. It wasn't gonna cut it anymore, especially not compared to what I felt like I was bringing to the table. And so as much as I loved that man, and God, I love that man, I just couldn't keep selling myself short and settling for so much less than I was giving. Why should I have to be Boo-Boo the Fool and put up with a whole lot of mess and nonsense and BS when it was my only intention to give him love and light and all the good parts of me? And make no mistake, I definitely played my part. I know that I am not perfect by any means, and I am not immune to making bad decisions or making mistakes or doing things wrong sometimes. And I'm sure there are qualities about me that he didn't like and probably still don't like to this day. Matter of fact, if he's watching this, he's probably cursing me out right now as we speak. And he may be off telling the next girl about his crazy ex-fiance who was to blame for our relationship ending. And that's his prerogative, really. Because I also know that when I was wrong and when I made mistakes, I did my best to apologize and make peace and learn from them, and to reassure him and show him that my intentions were good and that I would do better in the future to not hurt him or disrespect him or whatever the case was in those situations. I'm able to sleep very peacefully at night, knowing that I tried my best and I gave it my all, and I did everything within my power to fight for our relationship and to try to make it work, even when I was fighting by my damn self. But it just wasn't meant to work out that way. And as my New Yorkers would say, it be like that sometimes. As I've said in many of my relationship videos, not every relationship or situationship or friendship or whatever is gonna last forever. Most of them probably aren't meant to, and that's okay. We live, we learn, we have our experiences, and when things end, we hopefully move on to do better the next time. Or at least that's the way I see it. So anyhow, if you enjoyed this video, please go ahead and do the thumbs up thing. Don't have me out here telling you all my business for nothing, all right? The least you could do is hit the thumbs up. Also, let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Can you relate? Is this video helpful to you in any way? Definitely let me know down there in the comment section below. Please consider subscribing if you haven't already. I am in the process of revamping this channel and planning for some new and interesting content. So I hope that you'll be here for the ride, for the journey with your girl, you know, pleasantly unbothered. I don't even think I said that yet. Did I say that at all this video? Whoops. And I know that there are 1,000 other things that you could be doing or watching right now. So I certainly appreciate you being here with me. And I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Bye.